kids, this is Miss Winakur, and today we're going to be reading a book called Hershel and the Hanukkah Goblins. So this book is going to be read by me. My name is Miss Winakur. I work for 21st Century in Pasco, Washington. Okay, so lessons you can learn from a book. So basically, today we're going to be reading for not only pleasure, but what does Hershel learn in this book? So the journey that he's going to go on is there are these goblins in his town that don't want him to celebrate Hanukkah. And so all of the villagers do not celebrate. It's a dark book. No light. So Hershel is going to go and he is going to solve everybody's problem. And he's going to make sure that Hanukkah is celebrated. So we're going to read to find out how he solves this problem of making Hanukkah in the town. So Hanukkah is a Jewish holiday. It's an 8-day celebration of the Festival of Light. The menorah is lit. So you will see Hershel every single night light the menorah. And every night a new goblin's going to appear and they're going to try to take the lights out. So let's read and find out what happens in our book. All right, let's get started reading. So today we're going to be reading Hershel and the Hanukkah Goblins, which was written by Kimmel and illustrated by Trina, Schart, Hyman. And we talked about the menorah in our first couple minutes of this video, so let's get started. It was the first night of Hanukkah. Hershel of Ostropol was walking down the road. He was tired and hungry. Nonetheless, his step was light. Soon he would reach the next village where bright candles, merry songs, and platters piled high with tasty potato latkes awaited him. But when he arrived, the village was silent and dark. Not a single Hanukkah candle could be lit or seen. "Isn't tonight the first night of Hanukkah?" Hershel asked the villages. "We don't have Hanukkah, Hershel," one of them answered sadly. "No Hanukkah? How could that be?" "It's because of the goblins. They haunt the old synagogue at the top of the hill. They hate Hanukkah. Whenever we light a menorah, the goblins blow out the candles. They break our dreidels. They throw our potato latkes on the floor. Those wicked goblins make our lives miserable all year long. But on Hanukkah, it's really bad." Hershel knew that he must help the village people. "I'm not afraid of goblins," he said. "Tell me how to get rid of them." "It's not as easy as you think," the rabbi warned. "You must spend 8 nights in the old synagogue. The Hanukkah candles must be lit each night. On the 8th night, the king of the goblins must light them himself. That is the only way to break their power." "I'm not afraid, Rabbi," Hershel said. "If I can't outwit a few goblins, then my name isn't Hershel of Ostropol." The villagers wished Hershel luck. They had no potato latkes to give him, so he packed hard-boiled eggs for them to eat, along with a big jar of pickles. The rabbi gave Hershel a brass menorah, a package of candles, and a box of matches. Then the villagers said goodbye. No one expected to see Hershel again. It was long past sundown by the time Hershel climbed the top of the hill where the old synagogue stood. The crumbling building was gloomy and dark, and rusty hinges squealed as Hershel opened the door. Hershel stuttered. Well, could he believe that the goblins lived there? He put 2 candles on the menorah and set it on the windowsill. He struck a match and lit the shamus candles. He said the blessings and was able to light the other candle when he heard a voice. "Hey, what are you doing?" Hershel turned around. It was a goblin no bigger than a horsefly, with a long pointy tail and 2 little bat wings hovering in the air. "I'm lighting Hanukkah candles. Tonight is the first night of Hanukkah." "Oh, no, it's not. We don't allow Hanukkah around here." "Isn't that so?" said Hershel. "Who's going to stop me? A little squeak like you?" "I may be little, but I am strong," said the goblin. "Really? Can you crush rocks in your hands?" asked Hershel. The goblin laughed. "Crush rocks? You're joking. Nobody's that strong." "I am. Watch." Hershel took a hard-boiled egg from his pocket and squeezed it until the yolk and the white ran from his fingers. "That's how hard I'm going to squeeze you if you try to stop me from lighting these candles." The little goblin's eyes opened wide. Since In the dim light, the egg looked exactly like a rock. The goblin shook with fear. You leave me alone, he squeaked. Gladly, said Hershel, if you let me light my candles in peace. All right, said the goblin. One night won't make a difference, but you better not be here tomorrow. Big, scary goblins are coming, much bigger than I. If they catch you lighting the Hanukkah candles, you will be sorry. We'll be sorry about that, Hershel said to himself. He lit the first candle. On the second night, another goblin appeared. This one was fat and big and waddled like a goose. Hershel was finishing his dinner of pickles and hard-boiled eggs. Have some pickles, he said to the goblins. Pickles? Here, catch. Hershel tossed him a sour pickle. The goblin caught it in his mouth and swallowed it. Pickles are good. Do you like them? I have plenty in this jar. Take them all you want. The greedy goblin grabbed as many pickles as his claws could hold, and when he tried to pull his fist out of the jar, he couldn't. I'm stuck, the goblin shouted. You put a spell on this jar to hold me fast. That's right, Hershel said, laughing, and it's a very powerful spell. You come here tonight to stop me from lighting the Hanukkah candles, so now I'm going to light them while you stand here with your hand in a jar and watch. How do you like that? No, no, the goblin screamed. I hate Hanukkah. Too bad, you'll get used to it. Hershel said the blessings and lit the candles, and then he sang all of his favorite Hanukkah songs. The goblin wailed and carried on so much that Hershel finally decided to let him go. Shall I tell you how to break the spell? Yes, I can't stand it anymore. Let go of the pickles. Your greed is only spell holding your prisoner. The goblin let go of the pickles and his hand slipped out of the jar. His hand slipped out so easily. How that goblin raged. He stood there with his hand in a pickle jar while Hershel lit the Hanukkah candles under his nose. The furious goblin stomped out his foot so hard that he shattered into a million pieces. The wind blew him away. So we've had the first 2 nights of Hanukkah, and Hershel has saved it because he tricked the goblins. The third night came, and Hershel felt something watching him as he sat and lit the candles in the menorah. Instead of lighting them, he began playing dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. An hour passed. Hershel looked up. Sitting across from the table was another goblin. This one had a fiery red face and 2 enormous horns. It's getting late, the goblin said. When are you going to light the candles? Later, there's plenty of time. Hershel spun his little dreidel. This is more fun. What are you playing with? The goblin asked. It looks like a top. It is a dreidel. Don't you know about dreidels? No. Too bad. Dreidels are a lot of fun. You can make lots of money if you know how to play. Really? The goblin was interested in now. All goblins like money. This was no exception. How do you play? It's very simple, Hershel said. But you must have gold. That is the first rule. I have plenty. Is this enough? The goblin poured a pile of gold coins onto the table. That's fine, Hershel said. Listen carefully. This letter is called Shin. If it gives you a handful of gold, this letter is Hey. If it comes up, you give me half your gold. This is Gimmel. If the dreidel falls on this letter, you give me all your gold. Understand? Wait, there's one letter left, because there's 4 sides of the dreidel. What about this one? It's called Nun. If the dreidel falls on Nun, I don't give you anything. Ready? Let's play. You go first. The goblin spun the dreidel. The little top whirled and whirled around and round. When it fell, the letter was on top, Shin. Too bad, Hershel said, taking a handful of the goblin's gold. Try again. Maybe you'll have better luck. The goblin spun the dreidel one more time. Your luck is bound to improve. Once again, the goblin spun. This time the dreidel landed on Gimmel. Too bad, Hershel sighed as he took the rest of the goblin's gold. Would you like me to spin? Yes, the gobble crumbled. He was very unhappy about losing his money. Hershel spun the dreidel. This time the letter was None on top. Oh my, I don't give you anything. I get to keep all my gold. Say that was fun. Get more gold and we'll play again. What about the Hanukkah candles? We'll light them later. There's plenty of time. Not for me, the goblin said. I'm leaving now. I don't like this game. I don't like Hanukkah, and I don't like you. Don't go, Hershel pleaded. I know lots of games. Stay for a while. We'll have fun. Goodbye. The goblin spread his wings, swooped out of the door, and flew off to the night. Hershel lit the candles all by himself. Now, the next day, on the following nights, the goblins came. One had 6 heads, one had 3 eyes. All were terrible and fierce. They growled and roared and changed themselves into horrible shapes. They tried to stop Hershel from lighting the Hanukkah candles, but Hershel fooled them all. Finally, the 7th night arrived. 8 tiny little candles flickered on the windowsill. Hershel sat back to enjoy the light. Where were the goblins? Have they finally given up? Hershel felt very sleepy. His eyes closed. Suddenly, he sat up. He heard a terrible sound, a voice that sounded like cracking of bones. Happy Hanukkah, Hershel of Osterpol. What? Who is it? Who's there? Don't you know who I am, Hershel? Wouldn't you expect? The king of the goblins. The voice rose to a hurricane roar. It ripped the shingles from the synagogue roof, shattered the windows. The Hanukkah candles reared in savage blast, but they did not go out. You're too early, Hershel shrieked. You're not supposed to come until tomorrow. The great wind died down. Don't worry, Hershel. I am far away, but I have the power to see you and speak to you. Enjoy the Hanukkah evening, my friend. It'll be your last. Tomorrow night I will come for you. You fooled my slaves, the other goblins. Let me see if I can fool you. Poor Hershel. What was he supposed to do? The king of the goblins was on his way, and no power on the earth could stop him unless Hershel had an idea. It was a big chance. He had an idea, and he had to take it. It was the only way to save himself and Hanukkah. Are you guys ready to find out what happens? I'm so excited. So remember, Hanukkah is 8 days long, and you use the middle candle of the menorah to light each night. And let's find out how Hershel saves Hanukkah. So it was the last night of Hanukkah. Hershel sat the candles on the menorah. He put the menorah and the box of matches on a small table near the door, and he sat down to wait. Night fell. It grew pitch dark inside the old synagogue. Outside, the whole world lay cold and silent. Suddenly, a great gust ripped through the synagogue door from its hinges. The whole building shook. A fearsome voice spoke. Hershel of Osterpol, did I hear something? It is I, the king of the goblins. Hershel laughed. Don't be silly. You're one of the boys from the village. You're trying to scare me. I'm not a boy. I'm the king of the goblins. I'll believe it when I see it. Show yourself to me. Behold, I stand before you. Do you believe me now? Hershel tried not to look. Even in the darkness, he could see the outline of a monstrous shape filling the doorway. A figure too terrible to describe. He pretended not to care. How do you think he's feeling like inside? It's too dark. I can't see anything. The candle's stuck and the matches are by the doorway. Why don't you light a few candles and then I'll see who you really are. Indeed you shall. A match flared. The shamus candle caught the flame. Hershel's blood turned to water at the awful sight before him, but he did not lose courage. Master of the world, he prayed silently. Thou who created the heavens and the earth and the spirits in the air, stand by me now. And then he addressed the goblin. Is it too dark? What are you afraid of? There are plenty of candles. Why not light them all? A hideous hand took the shamus candle and lit the other ones by hand. Hershel felt himself growing faint, but he forced himself to look. His eyes grew wider and wider as each candle caught flame. The king of the goblins stood before him. Now, Hershel, do you know who I am? I know you're not Queen Esther. Very funny. Enjoy your joke. It will be your last. That's what you think. Be gone, and I'll stick to you. How dare you speak to the king of the goblins that way? I'll speak to you the way I please. You have no power. Your spell is broken. The menorah is lit. You thought those ordinary candles you were lighting, they weren't. They were Hanukkah candles, and you lit them yourself. The king of the goblins roared with fury. The earth trembled and a mighty wind arose. It was ripped off the synagogue roof and blew down the walls. It splintered the great timbers and scattered them like matchsticks. Around the menorah, the whirlwind howled, and the candles never flickered. They burned with clear, steady flames. The king of the goblins had no power over them. The spirit of Hanukkah triumphed. The great wind vanished as suddenly it hit a horizon. Hershel rubbed his eyes. That night was as still as before, even before the synagogue was gone. Walls, roof, floor, even the foundations had vanished. But the menorah remained tall upon the little table where Hershel placed it. Hershel waited until the last candle burned out. Then he started down the road that led to the village. I'd better hurry, he thought. I don't want to miss the last night of Hanukkah. But there's no reason to worry. In the window, there stood a menorah with 9 gleaming candles to light the way. The whole village was waiting for him. So, this book began like the Hanukkah story, or the Christmas story, A Christmas Carol. And the author based this off a Ukrainian story, Ivanko the Bear's Sons. Ivanko fools a goblin who lives in the lake. Why not multiply that goblin 8 times and use a Jewish folk character, Hershel of Ostropol, as the hero? So this book is based off of multiple stories that the author got to learn. And we learned that Hershel never gave up. That's the theme of this story. And the next time that you are looking at something really difficult, keep on having a good attitude and keep on trying. But thank you so much for joining me today. And remember, never give up, because just like Hershel, you can make things happen if you have a little hope.